Hey guys, welcome to your instructional video for how to complete my mummification lesson on my Ancient Egypt website. Make sure you access this particular site by accessing the description below this video. So the first thing I want you to do is write down your to know mummification in your books, and then underneath that you're to be able to explain why mummification was important for the afterlife. So we know that the ancient Egyptians were absolutely obsessed with their religion and their afterlife, and mummification ties so closely to why the ancient Egyptians thought so highly of the afterlife. And mummification and the afterlife are nearly inextricable. They're really important for each other. So after you write those two things down, guys, as you're heading in your books for this lesson, I want you to watch this video here. It'll outline for you the process of mummification and how it happens. The next video I want you to watch, guys, is by Ted Ed. It's called Arnie's Journey into the Afterlife. So it explains why the body had to be preserved during the process of mummification, the things that went into mummification, like the amulets, so that Arnie's body would be preserved and his soul would be preserved for the afterlife as well. After you watch those two videos, guys, I want you to write down these notes in your book. So mummification was important to preserve the body. The body had to be preserved in order to go to the afterlife. That's why mummification was so important. Egyptians were very careful about mummification because they had such a complex journey to the afterlife. The other thing worth noting as well is that the ancient Egyptians for their time were masters at preserving the body. Really hard thing to do because the body starts to break down after someone passes away. And the ancient Egyptians were masters at being able to preserve it, which you'll learn about in a second, how they did. The next thing I want you to copy down in your books, guys, is the 4 canopic jars. So the gods that are depicted on these 4 jars are the 4 sons of Horus, the god that is often quite closely tied to the pharaohs. So the ones you need to know are Hapi, Duamatef, Imseti, and Kabesonef. So they're the 4 sons of Horus. And in each jar, you can see they have their heads, what they look like. So Hapi is a baboon, as you can see. Duamatef is a jackal. Imseti is a human. And Kabesonef is a falcon. And so Hapi contained the lungs, so that when they would mummify someone, they would remove the lungs and put it in the jar that had a baboon head or Hapi's head on it. The stomach would go in the Duamatef jar, the liver would go in the Imseti jar, and then the intestines would go in the Kabesonef jar. So they were the 4 canopic jars, very important part of mummification as well. So copying exactly what you see here from these notes here, as well as baboon, jackal, human, and falcon, so you know what each god represented. The next thing I'd like you to do, guys, is to click on this link here. It'll take you to a game on mummification. It's really, really fun. Can't recommend it highly enough. Such a good game to learn about mummification. Make sure your Flash player is enabled as well, so you can play the game. And it'll load in a second. So what this game does is it teaches you the steps that were involved in the process of mummification. Here's Anubis, we know as the god of embalming. And he's going to talk us through how to mummify this person. So let's get going. So the first thing you want to do is remove the brains with our rod there. Now, what I want you to do is write down each step of the game as you go in your book. So you're doing the 12 steps of mummification, okay? So you would have just written down remove the brain using the rod. So after you finish writing each step, make sure you write it down. So let's go. Here's our 4 canopic jars. So we need to cut a little slit there. You know, here's our 4 canopic jars. So we're doing something we've already learned about. So the intestines, Kabesonef, the falcon-headed god. So I'm going to drag Kabesonef's head there. Next we're going to go the stomach, Duamtef, the jackal-headed god. Next we've got the liver, Imseti, and lastly the lungs of Hapi. Okay, next one. Okay, now we need to tilt the board. So remember, I'm writing each step down as I go, and then we need to insert the natron packets into the body. So natron was a salt that used to preserve the body. So there's packets of that. We're also going to pour the body with natron as well. So I'm writing all these steps down as I'm going as well. Now I need to wipe away the natron. It's been on the person for quite a while. So now their body is all dried out and quite well preserved. So now to fill the body again, we're going to put some linen into it. Now we're going to paint the body in resin. So these are all the things I want you guys to do, and while you're doing them, remember you're writing down the steps in your book. underneath your notes while you're going. Just got to get the arms. Fantastic. Alrighty, now we've got to wrap the body in the first layer of linen. Got to make sure I get it all. Alright, next we need the amulets that'll help protect us in the afterlife, and we learned about that while we were watching Arnie's journey from the TED Ed video. So they're going to help protect us in the afterlife. Now we need the second layer of linen to make sure those amulets stay there. Alright, now we need the face mask. Put it in the sarcophagus. Chuck it in the tomb. It's ready to go. So those are the 12 steps of mummification. So every time you see a noob say something in there, you can write it down in your book so you know the steps of mummification. After you finish that game, guys, one last job, remember, for you to be able to, is to explain why mummification was so important in the afterlife. So you've kind of dealt with that now, but this is going to help you even more. So we want you to draw yourself as a mummy in your book underneath your 12 steps, and you need to include the amulets you would bring with you to the afterlife. You also need to write down a list of sins you haven't done, just like we learned about in Arnie's video, so you have something to say to the 42 assessor gods that we learned about in the video here. So guys, that's all your activities for the lesson on mummification. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay updated to any of the websites like Ancient Egypt, and you want to get updated on new videos I upload as well. Thank you.